All right, Reverend Frank Chikane is one of the founding members and leader of the United Democratic Front. He now joins us via Zoom for more. A very good evening to you, Rev. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News, sir.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me. All right. Too late, though.
Yeah, I know, on a Friday. No. Rev, let's start here. You made the statement that, liberation heroes who died in the early stages of the country's democracy died celebrating, unlike the ones who are still alive. You sound to be lamenting the state of, our democracy at the moment. Can you expand, on your thoughts, having made that particular statement?
Now, let me just say, there's no doubt, nobody will disagree that we fought a gallant struggle. It was, in fact, Herculean. It was defeating a system with the best military capacity on the continent, with nuclear weapons, chemical weapons. We won. And having won, we took over the country, but made sure that the bridge to get there was prepared properly. We then developed the country, worked very hard to restructure it, to transform it. It was an exciting moment in our history. We even created national orders, code of arms, new flag, national anthem. It was an exciting moment with Madiba with us and others.
But Rev, some people might say yes. Some might agree with you and say, yes, of course. I remember I was quite young at the time, but I do remember, the euphoria and the excitement, and as you say, the singing and the dancing and the new national anthem and so forth. But some might say that was a fraudulent and fake kumbaya moment, and maybe now what's happening is that the reality is setting in, especially for the majority who then still find themselves in very much, the poverty that they experienced in that time. So one can argue that, yes, we were happy, but, it wasn't a genuine happiness now, was it?
No. You see, you can't contrast the pain of today and say something that went wrong was wrong because we have pain today. It can't follow. I think we fought a gallant struggle. We liberated the country. We made sure we transformed the country. What remained was the economy. And I think we need to say that. So those who died in the first 10 years, 15 years, really went home and went to the grave feeling they have achieved something. Remember, we're treated like less than human beings. Those who are younger don't know that. That I couldn't go to vets just because I'm black. I had to go to Limpopo where no mathematician has been produced. So for the younger generation, it's difficult to understand, and I understand that. But afterward, something went wrong, and the wheels of the car, went out, and we were grounded into state capture, corruption, and destruction of state institutions, and even removing capable people and putting people who can run government so that they can steal more. And I think we need to accept that there's a period that landed on us, and we need to change it now. So those who died in the last few years, and I've met them, Sister Bennett, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Albert Nolan, and a number of other people who went aggrieved that we made such sacrifices and that people turned the country into something we never fought for. And that's why by 2015, some of us took on the system and said it must come to an end. We organized veterans, we organized communities to make sure we stop this thing. And so what we need to do now is to mobilize the people of South Africa to take over, as I've said, make sure we can't be governed by criminals. and thieves. I think we need to say that.
Let's talk about
develop the country that we fought for.
Yeah, let's talk about UDF. I mean, this year marking 40 years since the establishment of the organization. What role did UDF play as this anti-apartheid body? And I really was interested in the fact that, there was this decision, of course, to incorporate other anti-apartheid organizations, if I understand correctly, 400 of those organizations. And, when you put so many organizations together, one wonders, you may have the same goal, but, was it, the same agenda at all times? Clearly, the end goal was to fight apartheid. But certainly when you put so many organizations together, there sometimes are some tensions and disagreements.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that work?
No, remember that during those days, there was no luxury.
Yeah.
The system brutalized everybody, all black people, Indian, colored, Africans, and even whites who supported us and took sides with us. And there was death in the streets. There was bannings of organization. People were in prison. There was no time to quarrel about differences. We had our organizations banned. We went to the ground from local, community organizations, professional organizations like doctors, lawyers, formed professional organizations. By 1983, when we formed the United Democratic Front, those structures were created on the ground, and we just brought all of them together into one front and with one common objective to make sure that the structures of apartheid they were consolidated don't succeed.
Yeah.
And I think, the UDF was one of the best things that could happen. By the way, for those who deal with theory of liberation, we had 4 pillars, and the UDF was one of the pillars. The other was armed struggle. Then it was the underground. It was the international mobilization. And UDF was mobilization in the country.
Yeah.
And we mobilized to a level of street committees, where every street had a committee. We were able to monitor who drives into that street and who drives out. There's a moment where crime disappeared in Soweto during those days.
Yeah.
That tells you the level of organization. And I don't think we have ever had such a thing like this. And on the 40th anniversary, we would like to recall those experiences, contrast that with what is happening today, and then say, what do we need to do using that as a past experience to deal with the challenges that we are facing?
Yeah. Rev, you talk about, the mobilization, and interestingly, you also talk about the fact that there were deaths in the streets, and that's actually where I wanted to go. I mean, the UDF promoted things like rent boycotts, school protests, worker stayaways. Was there very much of concern about the safety of those taking part, considering the violent nature of how the apartheid government operated along with their law enforcement, or was there a general sense from everyone, as Mandela's famous speech said, where he said something about this is an ideal that I'm willing to die for? Was that the general sort of sense from most?
Yeah, no, you see, with that type of repression, it was a war situation. We had to give away issues of fear because you were going to die in any way. So we had to make a choice. There's a time when we talked about useless death and meaningful death. Die whilst confronting the system, or die because the system in any way kills you. And so fear went out of our minds, and we took on the system. Many of our comrades died, many disappeared, many were assassinated, but we still went on. I mean, when I drove into that going home, entered the gate and closed the door behind me, I thanked God that I was still alive. So we were sitting ducks in this country, but we were prepared to fight the system. And we knew some of us only see the day of liberation.
Yeah.
But we knew that our people will be free one day. And that's what we fought for. And there was no fear of death because death was with us.
Yeah.
And I think the problem of today is that there is so much fear that people live with the rot that we are living with because of the consequences they would face if they challenge the system.
Yeah.